All right. Hello, everyone. It's good to see you here. My name is Mark Dolfini. Let me get my. There we go. Hey there. Hey, everybody. It's good to see you here. I'm glad you could join me. I am really looking forward to getting going on this. So I'm going to give everybody just another 30 seconds or so. If you have not already set some time aside, some bandwidth aside to where you can take notes, my recommendation, make sure you have some ample notes, ample nimble fingers or whatever. Shut down all your social media because we're going to get started here and we're going to get into this topic of social media optimization, part of an overall lead generation strategy. So I'm really looking forward to doing this. This is one of my more favorite ones. I really enjoy chatting about lead generation in general, and specifically social media optimization, because everybody just seems to be piling on the social media bandwagon for their own lead generation. So this is one that I really, really like. I actually had to come this is probably one of the more current things that I've had to learn, or more recent things I should say that I've had to learn. So this has been really really good for me personally, just from my own business perspective, and also for teaching my clients as a strategist. So let's get into this. First of all, really quick about me. I know I'm going to be putting this back up on replay. So for those of you, I'm going to show you where you can join a Facebook group if you're interested. I'll show you that later, and some other things that I have. Some free, some for a few bucks, but I'm not here to beat you up on buying stuff. I really want to teach you everything that I have to show you today. So, really quick about me: I am a strategist, and I like working with overwhelmed business owners, specifically business owners who are married, have some kids at home, who are really struggling. They want to grow their business, and I want to help them align their personal growth with their business strategies. That's really big for me. So today we're going to be talking about a little bit of both of those things in terms of personal growth and alignment of business strategies. So if you're wondering why I'm taking a top-down approach, a strategic approach, I'm a strategist. I can't help it. I also have a quirky sense of humor. I hope it doesn't offend anybody. I never want to be offensive, but I will apologize in advance if I say some quirky things, because that's just my nature of my personality. All right, that's all I have. Enough about me. Let's get to the meat and potatoes of what we're talking about today. This is about social media optimization. First of all, can I get a thumbs up from anybody that just make sure that you can hear me, that I'm actually not just speaking to a blank group of people? All right. And if you are feeling like you want to type, you can say, where you're coming from, what kind of business that you're in, and maybe what you're currently doing on social media right now. Thank you, Nancy. Please appreciate that. So I'm glad you can hear me. Let me know where you guys are coming from and what kind of business that you're in. I'd love to make this a little bit more relevant to you, the viewer. All right. So social media optimization. Let me get me out of the way here. I think I'm okay, actually, where it's at. All right, so this is part of an overall lead generation strategy. So let me go ahead right into the agenda. First and foremost, we're going to be talking about the Viper method. So for those of you who have read my book, purchased my book, or maybe you're familiar with me from the real estate space, I'm going to talk about the Viper method, specifically about I'm going to be talking about that more specifically, but I'm not going to get into the deep end of that today just because there isn't enough time. Thank you, Margot. You got an ice cream parlor. Oh, that's super cool. That's really cool. The second part here of this is the 4 core functions of business. Now, keep in mind, every business, even an ice cream parlor, has to have the 4 core functions of business. So we're going to talk about that here in just a second. So item number 3 is lead generation. That's the first of the 4 core functions. Number 4 is social media, because really that's what we're here to learn. And the lead generation strategies around social media optimization and how to optimize our social media strategy. So I'm not going to get into a lot of little tactical things, because I don't know your business, because every specific business may have a slightly different approach. I have a different approach than, say, Margot or Nancy, right? Nancy works for higher ed. Oh, Sacramento State College. Okay, very cool. Does marketing to recruit community partners and students. Okay, very good. So you're doing like community outreach. So I'm across the river from Purdue University here in Lafayette, Indiana. I came here for a business degree years ago, and I loved it, and I ended up staying. So I really, really love the Midwest. I actually grew up in New York, in upstate New York. So anybody that's out that way, hello and welcome. The final piece here on the agenda is we're going to talk about some success strategies and things that you can put into place. So just keep in mind, this is going to be broad, right? This isn't going to be specific strategies or specific tactics. This is going to be more of a strategic approach because, again, I am a strategist and I want to make it relevant to you because, Nancy, you're going to have a very different avatar than, say, Margot, right? Or some other people that may be watching this who maybe have a roofing business, who maybe have a coffee shop, who maybe are fractional CFOs, right? I've worked with all of those, and all of those will have obviously very different avatars, so they're going to have a very different approach and a very different strategy. Margot, you said you have Instagram and Facebook. I post once a week, and I work on stories every day. Very good. All right. Thank you. All right, so we're going to be talking about posting and things like that as well. So we are going to be taking a strategic approach. Strategic meaning top down. We're going to be looking at big picture and then boiling it down to the details. I won't, because everybody on here has a different business and a different approach and a different personality, right? Some of you may be a little bit more serious. Some of you may be a little bit more quirky. That's totally fine. But at the end of the day, that's why I'm taking a strategic approach, because I don't want to offer a specific tactic to you that doesn't align with who you are. That doesn't align with your core values. That doesn't align with how you want to do business, right? I came out of the real estate space, and there was a lot of coaches who were in the real estate space that says, "Oh, all you got to do to make $10,000 is go knock on 10,000 doors." I'm like, dude, I am not doing that, right? Like I at the time had way too fragile of an ego. I would knock on 5 doors and get yelled at, and I would be like, crying in the base of my shower for the rest of the weekend. I'm not doing that. So that's why I don't take a tactical approach. I take a strategic approach to managing your life and business. And that is why, that's how I took the approach in the Time Wealthy Advantage. You'll see the book on the screen. I've got the book. It's right here on my desk. This book right here, The Time Wealthy Advantage. You can get it on Amazon, but I am going to tell you how to get it, a signed copy, if you would like. Way cheaper than what you can get it on Amazon. Plus, I'll give you a 30-minute one-to-one coaching session. We will talk about that. Just stay focused right now. I'll give you a link at the end where you can get a copy of that for cheaper than Amazon. I just want to keep you focused right now on the training. So let's get into the Viper method. The Viper method is an acronym for vision, infrastructure, process, execution, and reporting. So I do another course, another training where I unpack all of these things. In fact, if you go to strategicboardroom.com, there's all sorts of trainings around this methodology. But I'm just going to kind of give you the quick version of it now. I am going to come back to vision though, because vision is very, very important. Vision is ultimately where we want to go. All right. So don't forget that. We're going to come back and unpack vision just a little bit more, because vision is so incredibly important. Because remember, at the end of the day, I'm a life and business strategist. Everything we do is for our lives, not for our businesses. Yes, our businesses do exist to serve us, not the other way around, right? So I'm going to come back to that in just a second. So vision is basically where we want to go. Infrastructure is the bones of the business, right? I want you to think of the desks. I want you to think of the chairs, the software, the websites, the phone system, right? If you can see me, if you have a phone system that looks like this, right? People can contact you all the time. Well, if your customers are calling you all the time and this is the only way that they can contact you, you don't get to complain. You have set up that infrastructure. So you've set up this infrastructure, which is the bones of the business, the desks, the chairs, the software, the websites, the payment systems, all of those things. That is all infrastructure. Next is process. Process is simply how you do stuff. Process is broken down into 2 areas. They are tactical process and strategic process, or more along strategic planning. So tactical process is your day-to-day stuff, right? It's basically your opening procedures, your closing procedures, how you prepare bank deposits, how you answer the phone, right? Hello, this is Mark. Thank you for calling, blah, 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 right? And you want it done consistently. The tactical processes, that makes sure that that the experience for your customer is consistent, right? Because consistency is really what you should be aiming for all the time. Like I want my customers, anytime my customers contact me, I have a real estate business, I have a property management business, and every time when my customers contact my office, I want to make sure that they have a very consistent experience. right? That one person isn't saying one thing, another person isn't saying another thing. I want that experience to be consistent across the board. And that is why when you have those day-to-day tactical processes all spelled out in terms of who's doing what, yes, you can leave a little bit of creative license for people, not so they're like micromanaged, but just give them a framework in terms of how to operate. Okay, that's really important. So those are your checklists and things like that. When it comes to strategic planning, that's the things where you're actually taking, okay, so you built this boat, you built this battleship, this warship, right? You want to take it out of the harbor, right? That's what strategic planning does. So strategic planning is broken down into different areas. I'm not going to get into that right now, but just understand that process does have two components to it, tactical and strategic. The execution piece, when things fall apart, where do they generally fall apart at? You can have the best plan, right? And what happens? Falls apart in execution. So that's why I have execution specifically delineated in the Viper method, because it needs to be broken out. It needs to be like, okay, cool. We've got this vision. We've got the infrastructure in place. We got the processes. We know how to do the individual day-to-day stuff. We know where we're going. We know where we're driving this boat. Now we need to execute. Now, generally, this is what happens is when you don't identify those things in terms of execution, when you don't identify those things, you end up with a list of 97 items. Who has that list of 97 items, that to-do list? That's 97 items long. If I had 3 hands, I'd have them all up, right? Because I got to be careful about that stuff. And here's the problem: you have too many priorities, right? When you have too many priorities, I do, right? Thank you, Nancy. When you have too many priorities, right, it has the same effect as having no priorities. When you have too many priorities, it has the same effect as having no priorities. So that's the problem. And I like to break my execution down into a daily 5. My daily 5 is up to 5 very specific things that I will do that day to move the needle towards my vision, to move the needle towards my strategic plan. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? I definitely have 50. Oh, hey, Hermika. It's good to see you again. Hey, Lauren. Thank you. Good to see you. So that's what's really important, is making sure that you have up to 5 very specific things that will move the needle towards your personal and business vision and towards your strategic plan. Because if you have too many things, now I'm not suggesting that you don't have other things on your to-do list. I'm talking about up to 5 I'm talking about the needle movers. I'm talking about the things that you have to do. And if you're trying to grow your business, Nancy, you had mentioned that you're out there recruiting company partners and students. It's volume, right? Like, you're in the volume business. You're out there kissing a lot of babies, metaphorically, right? So you're out there mixing it up, right? That's what I'm saying. Like, so it's not like, well, check email. That's not really a needle mover, right? I mean, you might say, well, yeah, it's part of a task that I have to do every day to make sure that I'm following back up with people. Absolutely. But if it's a question of following up with an email, right? Like just a typical administrative type email, that's going to go on the back burner. I'm going to make sure that I'm doing all of my upfront, very important needle moving activities towards my strategic plan and my personal and business vision. Am I tracking? Is this making sense? Execution is so incredibly important, because it's about taking imperfect action. And this is why in the Viper method, I broke out execution separately. All right. I'm afraid to count. It's okay, Margot. You're among friends here. It's totally fine. We will not judge you, because you are among friends who also struggle with the same thing. I promise. Right. Again, if I had 3 hands, I'd put them all up. All right. So the last piece there is reporting. So reporting is just tracking the activities, right? And it's lead metrics and lag metrics. Lead metrics are your activities and your actions. Lag metrics are the results of those activities and actions. So what do you have direct control over? The lead metrics, right? Obviously, your actions and activities. And that's what's really, really important. So that's the quick, literal 5-minute breakdown of the Viper method. I literally go much, much deeper in different trainings. If you are interested in additional trainings, I've been doing these a lot on Eventbrite. I really like the platform. It seems to attract the type of people I like working with. We're going to be talking about an avatar here in just a little bit, so keep that in mind. But again, we'll go through the Viper method on a different training in another day. All right, so let's get on to this. Let's go back to vision really quick. Vision is broken down into 2 main areas, right? You heard me say this already. It's your personal vision and your business vision. A quick second here. All right, drinking my green tea. So personal vision and business vision. Personal vision is specifically, it asks the question, where do you want to go? Where do you want to go? And it does, and I am asking this from a personal perspective. So as a life and business strategist, you can imagine that I literally get into people's personal lives quite a bit. And it's not because I'm trying to be invasive or anything along those lines. I mean, people can share with me whatever they want to share. But at the end of the day, I want to make sure that they are being true to themselves. Because yes, the business vision does come next. It's not that business vision is irrelevant. It just can't come first. Because the business vision asks the question, great, how are we going to get there? When you ask these specific questions in this order, notice what the business vision does. The business vision exists to serve the personal vision. Because here's the problem. When you don't ever stop and create a personal vision, when you don't ever stop and think of what your personal vision is, the danger is when you create a business vision before you create a personal vision, you end up creating a life that exists to serve the business. All right. Or if you have a career, the danger in having a career vision before you're creating a personal vision is that you end up creating a life that exists to serve the career. Either way, works the same way. So all I'm saying is that I'm not suggesting that business vision or career vision is irrelevant. It just can't come first. And if you never spend the time to actually break out and define what a personal vision is, like what do you want your life to look like, and ask that specific question, then your business vision in essence becomes your personal vision by default because there's nothing else in place. So that's how a lot of people become career, whatever it is. And meanwhile, life continues to pass them by. They have all these milestones that they're missing. And, I'm 52 years old and we have a 19-year-old, a 17-year-old, and a 2-year-old. And many people think that she was the 2-year-old was a whoops. No, she was very intentional. My bride and I, we talked about having more children, and she was incredibly intentional. We weren't quite sure until recently that we were done, but she is a lot of kid. Like, does anybody have the type of kid that wears the rain boots in July and just is very kinetic? Well, that's our daughter, right? She is our little pterodactyl, little velociraptor. Wouldn't change it for the world, but she's a lot of kid. So we're kind of thinking, okay, we are done, and that's fine. That we are incredibly blessed, but trust and know that she was very much planned. Even though my bride, she's turning 40 this year, but the thing was, we were seriously considering it, but our vision has now shifted, and again, trust and know that we as a couple have a vision for our marriage, for what we want our marriage to look like, for what we want our life to look like. And those take intentional conversations, and they're not always easy. All right, let's move on. So from the personal vision perspective, then we move on to the business vision. Now, the business vision is defined in 3 ways. So this is the 3 C's of business vision. For those of you who have seen me talk before, this is going to be a little bit of a review. You have the core purpose, the core values, and the client avatar. So the core purpose of the business is specifically what business that you're in. Now, you might be saying, well, why are we going through all this? I thought this was about social media optimization. Yes, but if you're not clear in your core purpose, meaning you're not clear in terms of what business that you're in, trust and know that it's not going to get more clear in the mind of the client. Do you understand me? It really is important that you stop and define what business am I actually in? What am I doing? Am I okay? I'm a bookkeeping. I do bookkeeping. Great. Do you do taxes? Well, I could. Yeah, but do you? Will you? Is that part of the service that you want? Is that the part of the purpose of your business? No, I don't want to do taxes. Okay. Do you want to do bookkeeping for mom and pop type organizations, right? Or do you want to do businesses that maybe have less than 50 employees that want to outsource their bookkeeping services? Right? Those are 2 very, very different, a different core purpose, very different avatar, right? So this is why it's really important that you really get clear in terms of what it is you do. Are you doing almost like a fractional CFO? So when I say fractional CFO, that's chief financial officer. That basically means someone's hiring you as their chief financial officer, because it's a lot cheaper than hiring in a full-time CFO, which can be easily $350,000 plus benefits and taxes and all the things that go with that, versus paying someone, say, $100,000 that can do that same thing. It's massively cheaper, and you're just basically hiring them from a fractional perspective. Fractional services have become very, very popular, right? So this is why it's really important that you understand your core purpose. What specifically will you do? What is specific to the purpose of the organization, right? What is it that you're doing? What is the, what business are you in, and what problems do you solve? That's really important to get clear. Your core values is simply, what is it that you value? How would the world be worse off if you were no longer in business, right? Nancy, if you were no longer doing what you do, who would suffer because of it, right? Think about that. Even though, Margot, I know you have an ice cream store, you bring a lot of joy to people. I can guarantee that. So how would people's lives be impacted if you were no longer in business? Right? Hermika, same thing. Lauren, same thing. And there's a few of you out there not saying anything right now. That's totally okay. But you've got to get really, really clear in terms of why you're in this business to begin with. How would the world be worse off if you were no longer in business? And think about it. Who would suffer if you are no longer doing business? Finally, we're going to come back to the client avatar. And this is the client avatar where we've already discussed core purpose about what business that you're in, core values of what, how would the world be better off, worse off if you were no longer in business? And finally, the client avatar is, who do you serve? Who is it that you're serving? So when you get really clear about the client avatar, and this is about who specifically that you're serving, right? So, Nancy, you mentioned, let's see here. You mentioned that you're doing community for the Sacramento State College, right? So you probably have an avatar in mind. I don't know if those are typical post-secondary school type individuals, if they are 18 to 24. Like, I was definitely not your typical college student. I was 4 years out of I was 4 years in the Marine Corps. Basically 6 years out of high school. When I went to Purdue University, I was absolutely not the typical student, right? But they didn't, which was fine. They let me do my own thing. But trust and know that when they were doing their normal on-campus activities, I was not part of those things because I just didn't want to be. I was in a different station in my life. So this right here, that client avatar piece, this is really, really important to get really clear, because this is going to become very, very important in your social media optimization. If you are not clear on this, it is going, your anything that you put out there is going to be very, very confusing, right? If you try to reach everyone, you will reach no one, right? So again, you don't have an unlimited budget. You don't have an unlimited time. This is really important to make sure that you know specifically who it is that you're going after, who it is that you're trying to attract. For me, as a life and business strategist, I really like working with married couples who have children at home who are in business together, right? Or at least one of them is in business, right? So generally a small business owner, could be, and they generally have staff. And that could be staff of 3, 5, 10, up to 20 members. Beyond that, it tends to not be such a good fit. But it becomes more dependent, situationally dependent. But that's who I really like working with. Not that I won't work with other people, but that's the bullseye that I'm shooting for. And again, all I'm saying is, if you're throwing darts at a board or a circle and right inside is the bullseye, yeah, I'll take some that are in this, the 8, 9, and 10 ring, right? In the bullseye for sure. But if I'm getting too many 6s and too many 5s, look, they're better clients for someone else. That's why it's really important to identify who the ideal client avatar is. And that way you can direct your marketing and your message towards that person. Be as specific as you possibly can be. And like again, just it almost to the exclusion of who you're not. Would you work with 18 to 20-year-olds? I won't. Now, it's not that I can't. It's just that they generally don't have the budget. They generally don't have enough life experience to really understand what it is that I'm bringing to the table. Does it mean I won't work with people who are maybe, I think my youngest client was 24 when he first came to me. He is now 27, pushing 28. And he has been an amazing, amazing client, but he has also been through a lot in life. And when I started working with him, I recognized that he was different. But So from me, it's more about an emotionally intelligent perspective, but I do have to interview them. I don't just put out a banner and say, hey, come, I'll work with anybody, because I won't, right? I want to make sure I can get them results. And if they don't have the emotional intelligence level there, then I won't do that. Right. So you might say, well, that's kind of bad. Well, yeah, but does Starbucks, are they marketing? Does Starbucks market and promote to a very specific type of avatar? You bet they do. You bet they do. They're not out there promoting to like Midwestern hunters, right? Like that's not what they want, right? I'm not saying that they wouldn't serve them, right? But they are serving a certain demographic within metropolitan areas, and that's totally normal. That's totally fine. All right. So I want you to get really, really specific on who your client avatar really is. So this is so when you're considering your client avatar, you should consider three different things. You want obviously geographic, demographic, and psychographic. Geographic is obviously where they are, right? These are pretty straightforward. Geographic is where they are, demographic is who they are, and psychographic is how crazy they are, right? No, not psycho, right? So it's obviously how I know there's a joke in there. Mark's superpower is that he's a collector of amazing humans. So Lauren, I do have an ability to gather people who just have really, really good hearts. So thank you, Lauren. You are among them. I appreciate it. So, but psychographic is obviously how they think. So I want you to think of the acronym ALIA, ALIA, right? Their attitudes, their lifestyles, their interests, their aspirations, right? ALIA, ALIA, attitudes, lifestyles, interests, and aspirations. So that would mean like, how do they buy? That just things that, like, what are the important considerations that they make when they're making a buying decision? That's really, really important when you're dialing into your avatar. And quite frankly, my geography, will I work with people outside the United States? Yeah, I will. Not that I haven't done a lot of that. Not that I won't, but right now I'm just starting to pick up a lot of traction in terms of strategic boardroom. I was doing other things under another banner called Landlord Coach, which was really teaching and working with people in the real estate space. And my interest shifted, and I want to work more with entrepreneurs and business owners. So I niched up a little bit. And now I'm starting to attract people internationally, and which is fine. Not that I won't work with people internationally. I just need to make sure that my skill set will dovetail with where they're at, and it probably would. So, but I'm just saying, like, I want to be very specific in my geography, right? So I don't know, Margot, if you have an ice cream, like, I don't know if it's a store or whatever it is, but if you have a geographic area, that would probably make sense, right? I don't know that you're shipping ice cream internationally. Maybe you are, right? But there's probably certain geographic area that makes sense for you, right? The same thing with demographics and psychographics. So you want to get really clear on those three areas to break down your client avatar and who that person actually is. If it helps, give them a name. My name for my avatar for a long time was Jim and Sarah. And Jim and Sarah was a married couple who have a business and they have a couple of kids at home. And the irony is, I had a couple that came to me named Jim and Sarah. Like after the fact, after I was like, holy crap, that's actually works. All right. So item number 2 here on the agenda is the 4 core functions of business. I told you I was going to reference this, and we're not going to spend a lot of time here because we want to get to the lead generation piece, but the 4 core functions generally happen in this order for your client. For the client experience, happens in this order. First is lead generation, then sales, operations, and accounting. Lead generation, sales, operations, and accounting. And remember, the customer experience happens in that order. So they first experience you through your lead generation, and then they're going to come to you. They're going to raise their hand and say, "I am interested in what you have." And as a result, they're going to come to you because of the sale, and that's where the sales function will pick up. Now, I would argue that the lead generation function actually never actually ends, even after they become a buyer, because you have to nurture, right? And you should continue to nurture, especially your paying clients, but also in addition to the people who maybe have bought, and until they have either proven that they are no longer your avatar or they are dead, right? That's when you stop with the lead generation. You're in a small historic town in California with a California mission. Very good, Margot. Thank you. So So these are the four core functions of business. I want to get right into the lead generation, but basically what lead generation does is it lets the world know that you're out there through a variety of marketing approaches. Now, those different approaches, I'm going to just go through this rather quickly because this really isn't that important, but it is important for you to understand the difference between outbound and inbound. Outbound marketing approaches is basically considered interruption marketing. It's the marketing that all of us are familiar with. It's the commercials on television. It's the commercials on radio. I actually remember a time in satellite radio where there were no advertisements. Do you guys remember satellite radio that didn't have advertisements? And now satellite radio and it even branded itself like that, like no interruptions, right? You can just get all this music, except now it's like the same. But so you've got outbound type advertising, and that's the interruption type, and that's initiated the by the business. That's the difference between who is the marketing approach initiated by. So outbound is initiated by the business. Inbound is initiated by the avatar, by the client. So inbound might be like, hey, I'm looking for an ice cream parlor in a very specific town in California. Oh, well, how about that? So you Google it, right? And it pulls up ice cream parlor. You're like, oh, cool. Let's go see our friend Margot. Make sense? That's inbound. So inbound marketing is more when you're dealing with SEO, when you're dealing with very specific people they already know a little bit about what it is that you do, but they may not know you. So they're a little warm. They're not hot. They're warm. They are familiar. They're problem aware. They're a little solution aware, but they're not you aware. Okay. So the other approach that I think it's worth putting in here is called direct response. Direct response is specifically, this could be either outbound or inbound, but direct response has something related specifically to an offer that you put out there. Now, it could be a free offer. It could be a paid offer, whatever it is. You guys, for example, everyone that's on this call responded to a direct response marketing through Eventbrite. I posted out there, right? That's direct response. So let me pull myself up here a little bit. So that's direct response. You guys went on, you were like, oh, okay, I'm kind of looking for something. Maybe it's continuing ed. Oh, that caught my eye, right? And that's why you're here, right? So that was direct response. And you're like, why are you calling it out? Because it's important. I'm an open book. I'm just saying what it is. So you can see and go, oh, okay, that's how he did direct response. Yes. And that is why you're here. So think about this for a second. Like in direct response, it's really important that you lead with value. In fact, really with any marketing approach, you have to lead with value. If you are leading with BS, right? Let's face it, people's BS meters are pretty well honed these days. If they come on and they think, oh man, like, let's be honest. If you came onto this call and you're like, okay, you're going to give me a few minutes of grace, to kind of get warmed up. There was somebody that came on and jumped off. I was like, oh, and then they jump back on. So it must have been an internet issue. But that happens all the time to me where people jump on, they listen to me for like 2 or 3 minutes. And if I don't catch them right away, if I don't give them value right away, if I take 15 minutes to tell about how awesome I am, I'm going to be speaking to an empty room. And I used to do that. Until I realized like, oh, no one cares, right? I did it really bad until I actually started realizing that I have to lead with value. No one cares really about my story. They'll be polite for a while, but they really don't care. They really care about them and their pain. They care about what they came here to learn. They came to solve whatever problems that they have. Okay. So when I'm talking about leading with value, this is why also when you're talking about your ideal client avatar, you have to understand what pain they're in. And at the end, I'm going to talk about 15 reasons why people buy. And that is about making money, saving time, avoiding effort, escaping pain. Escaping pain includes not just physical pain, but emotional pain. Okay. There's 10 other ones. We'll go through them. But when you understand what those things are and how you can help them directly or indirectly make money, or how you can help directly or indirectly make them save money or save time or avoid effort, escape pain, right? Blah, 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 more comfort, better health, gain praise, feel more love, increase their status, right? There's all these reasons why people will buy. And sometimes buying just means that they're going to show up. They're buying with their time. So this is really important when you start to think about direct response marketing, because direct response marketing, it has a very, very specific offer that they have to respond to. So direct response just basically means, hey, here I am. Here's this thing I want you to do. I want you to click this button. I want you to download this thing right now. I want you to schedule a call. I want you to call me right now to get on the phone, right? Whatever it is, they've got a very specific call to action. That's direct response. So from direct response, now we're looking at networking. Networking is obviously out there kissing babies, running for mayor, right? Everyone knows who you are. That is a marketing approach for sure. And I think, and again, the truth about word of mouth marketing is it's always working. The question is it working for you or is it working against you? And that's really important. So networking, I really do believe that can be very, very valuable. In fact, Lauren has been who's on this call now, she's been very instrumental for me in just helping me gather more people to my tribe. And I'm very, very grateful for that. And very grateful for her. There's other things around alliances and joint ventures. One quick thing around alliances. Alliances generally means that joint ventures and alliances, they sound similar, but they actually are different. In that, like, they're both looking to expand their markets. These are generally two different entities that are both looking to expand their markets. Alliances tend to be a little bit less formal. They're like companies that are formed by complementary industries. So has anyone ever seen a Starbucks inside a Barnes and Noble? Has anybody ever seen that? Right. That would be an alliance. So if you've seen a Starbucks inside of a Barnes and Noble, that's an alliance. They're both maintain separate entities. Thank you, Nancy. They both maintain separate entities, but they actually have formed a strategic alliance. That's one way that you can have a marketing approach. Another one would be a joint venture, which is generally where they have a third entity. That's a joint venture. And keep in mind, that could be something that could be valuable for you if you were looking to do something along those lines, right? If just depending on what direction you're trying to grow in. You can have press releases. I don't have a lot of experience with those, but those are very, very valuable if done well. And then finally, you can do affiliate marketing where someone else sells your stuff. This is all just various marketing approaches. So you might thinking, okay, great. Now let's talk about social media. First and foremost, regardless of whatever approach you take, how does social media fit into your brand? It may not. For example, like you have to stop and think about this, that if you have a brand, let's say for argument's sake that you have a brand that is, let's say it's tobacco, and there's a lot of negative press that's going on toward, it's been going on for years with tobacco, but somehow like people are still smoking. I don't know how in the world that's even a thing, but like, would social media respond well to you trying to push tobacco? I don't even know that you can. I don't even know if you're allowed to, because like certain alcohol and tobacco and vaping and all this stuff, like I don't even know that social media would allow that. So you have to think about, does it even fit into your brand? Some brands naturally fit hand in glove. Like someone had once told me, I'm not a basketball person at all. If you met me, I'm 5'7", right? I'm like built like, for tunnel rats. Like, give me a flashlight and put me in a hole. That's generally how I'm built. Not a real big guy, but I am not built for basketball. And I live here in the Midwest, which is like they're born with a basketball in their crib. So everybody out here plays basketball. And the thing about basketball is it seems like Twitter and basketball go together like, peas and carrots. So it's kind of funny that people will be on and watch social media or be on Twitter or X. No one calls it X, but you're on X while you are also watching basketball. That's a natural fit. So when you're looking at it, you just have to think of, does social media even fit into your brand? And now I want you to also stop and think about it in your own personal relationship with social media, because you cannot possibly optimize something that you personally have a bad relationship with. So that's why I'm saying, like, if you like, oh my gosh, I get on and I'm triggered and have all these, bad thoughts about people, I want to argue with people and argue with idiots all day long. That's not going to work for you if you have a bad relationship with social media. So I don't want you thinking that you have to optimize something if you have a bad relationship with it. And that's going to be really important, because if you don't want to do it, it's going to be an antagonistic relationship the entire time that you're on social media. So again, it's a question of, should you be on social media at all? Well, let's look at these statistics. I know this is a little hard to see, Let me get myself my giant melon out of the way. Let's see here. There we go. So if you look there, you'll see it at the top, Facebook, and these are in billions. So that means almost half the world is on Facebook, right? 3 billion people. You got YouTube, which is 2.5 billion. Instagram is another 2 billion. So between on Meta, Facebook and Instagram has over 5 billion people. So that's over half the world's population is what Meta has. And then WhatsApp, I think that's also controlled by Meta. So you got a lot of people that are on social media, right? You got TikTok, 1.5 billion, WeChat. I didn't even know WeChat was a thing until I actually found this chart. But so the question is, should you be on social media at all? Well, it just depends. Where is your client avatar, right? So you have to think about this. And now let's start thinking about this in the context of some mistakes, because this right here, mistakes number one, you have to think about, well, if you don't know where your client avatar is, it's going to be really hard to find them. So mistake number one is not having a very clear avatar. We talked about that already, right? And if you're not clear, you're going to appear very, very vanilla, regardless of where you land. Okay. And you have to be a little divisive when you have to take a stand on some things that are in your reach. Because if and I know some people take an obnoxious approach to this, like they just become so divisive, like just so argumentative about everything. But you have to speak and really evoke some emotions from your avatar. Because if you're not evoking some emotions, you're very vanilla, you're very safe, and that's not going to move the needle, right? It, like in social media, you really have to connect with people on an emotional level. That's why people who really do well are the ones who are most authentic. And that we're going to be talking about authenticity here in just a bit, but that's really, really important when you're trying to connect with your avatar. So I know I'm talking about some very, very big, broad concepts here, but you can't skip this stuff, because every single person who has skipped this and is working with me, and I look at their social media content, I'm like, dude, it is so vanilla. You're not making a stand for anything. And my people, like there's certain things that I'll take a stand on. Like there's hills I will die on. And like one of the things is I am not into grinding. Grinding is for coffee, and grinding is not for human beings. So I don't mind working hard, and I work hard. I work a lot of hours, but I also have I have boundaries, and I have a very specific mindset towards making sure that I spend enough time with my family. And right now, my little girl, she does not care when she comes here to the office, and Jen is, she'll bring her by, and Jen's working on something different. She wants my attention undivided. Does not care what I have going on. Right? Like she comes in right now, like I'm gonna have to have someone else finish it, because she just does not care. Right? But that's fine. That's fine. I mean, I wouldn't do that. Jen knows that I'm on a call. I'm doing this event right now. But the point is not having a clear avatar. That's why you've got to be really specific and be a little divisive. Like say, you know what? If this is how you feel, that's okay. I respect it, but I'm actually over here. That's okay. You can respect it, but you got to draw a line in the sand on some areas. If you try to be vanilla, you will end up with nobody. So not having a clear avatar. And also, when it comes to your marketing, you can't be in the middle road on everything. But this is also why it's so important to have your core purpose and core values also dialed in, right? Because this leads us to the second biggest mistake that I see. When you're very clear on your core values, and you're very clear on your avatar, you're very clear on your core purpose, right? This also, when you start to think about it, this is why when you try to be everywhere, that's mistake number two. Now, trying to be everywhere, you are splitting too much attention across too many different channels. This is, again, what I'm saying is what I'm suggesting, like your core purpose, be really specific about where you are. Okay, well, let's go back to this chart here. Let me get myself out of the way again. Okay, so when you're looking at this chart here, there's actually a chart that goes a little deeper than this, right? This isn't all of the social media, but let's look down here. This is all of them. Now, you can't read this at all, but I went ahead and right down there, that's X. That's Twitter. All right. So all the way down there, I think that number is, what is that, 600,000 people. So there really isn't even that many people on X, right? So these active users, these are in the millions. So you're looking at 600 million. I would say, well, hold on a second. Are these people really? Is your client really even on Twitter? Right? Are they part of the geographic, demographic, or psychographics? When you're asking where are they, who are they, right? Look at this. This is the average age of Twitter users, X users. So look at this. You've got the average age is between 18 to 34. You're going to capture almost 60% or 70% of the market by advertising or being on X. If you're dealing with a 55 plus community, would it make any sense at all for you to be on Twitter? Would it make any sense at all? Obviously, no. So this is why you have to stop and think like, well, I need to be on Twitter. I need to be on this. I need to be on that. Like my avatar tends to skew older. So there really doesn't make a lot of sense for me to be on X. It doesn't make any sense. So that you have to recognize and fully acknowledge that their new gold rush is for attention. And this is also why, and again, you have to recognize that if the new gold rush is for attention and money follows money follows attention, then part of an overall hold on a second here. And part of an overall strategy is owning the mental real estate of other people. So this is like when you stop and think about this for just a second, you have to recognize that you might be trying to do too many things across too many platforms. I get no traction on LinkedIn, none. Like almost to the point where it's just why even bother. But I do use it just on occasion, almost like kind of like a random act of marketing. I really don't get much from LinkedIn. Now, I am going to make a more concerted push towards that because I do believe that there are certain people out there that I can help. But up till recently, I really wasn't getting much because I was really trying to deal with a real estate based type avatar and they just weren't on there. So now that I have niched up in the last 24 months to probably a little bit longer than that, but towards a business type avatar, to a small business and business type avatar, somewhere between 10 and $30 million in revenue, that's who I really like working with. Will I work with smaller? Yeah, it depends. Just depends on who they are. So you have to stop and think about that. Let me get you back up here. So if your social media is not working, right, you have to think about this. Well, how clear are you? How do you change this? Like, if your social media is not working, well, what was the point? What were you trying to accomplish in the first place? Are you trying to get followers or are you trying to get money? Me personally, I don't really care that much about followers. I mean, I do care, but it's not a metric that I pay that close attention to. I look at it from the perspective of impact. So even if I had 10 followers and I had 10 people that viewed my content that day, I look at that as I had 10 people in a room that I got to spread my message to. So for me, that's a win. But let me ask you something. If I were to ask the 5 people closest to you, now think about who these 5 people are. I want you to think about this for just a hot second. Think about the 5 people closest to you. If I were to ask them, what is it that you do? What is it that Hermika does? What does Margot do? Who does she really like to service? Who does she really like to work with? Right? What is Lauren? What is Nancy? Like, what if I was to ask that question, would they all give me the same answer? Or would it even be close? Right? If so, then you're doing a good job. Then you're probably pretty clear on your avatar. You're probably pretty clear about what it is that you do and what problems that you solve. It's really important that you're not fragmented and that you own the mental real estate of the people that are around you. Because when you can do that, then you can spread and put stuff out there on social media that is really in alignment with who you like working with. Now, in case I don't make this point later, I want to make this point now because it's kind of popping up for me, right? This is really why I like looking at a theme. So, for example, because I like working with married business owners who have kids at home, every now and again, it might post something about marriage. Every now and again, I might post something around being a parent. Right now, I'm at parenting 502. right? I'm at master's level parenting because I'm dealing with an adult. I'm dealing with a teenager still. Well, the other one's a teenager, but not an adult. And the other one is a toddler. So we're getting it from all different angles. So I think I can speak with a little bit of legitimacy the stresses of dealing with multi-age roles right now going on in and out of our household. So I speak to that stuff. I speak to what is important to the avatar. So again, this is also why you want to be a little bit divisive and take a stand in terms of what it is that you're posting about. What being very clear on your avatar. Again, on the things that your business stands for sure, but also what you stand for because you represent the business, right? So let's look at mistake number 3. Thinking that posting is marketing. Posting is not marketing. Posting is not marketing. Posting is, and now I want to make sure that I'm really clear about what I mean by posting. I hear people like, oh, I post, I try to post every day, get my name out there. Okay. If you go to my page, and you're welcome to, follow me on Facebook, and I'm getting close to 5,000. So I have to be careful about, but I'm getting a lot of people who follow me on Facebook, but I don't want to get maxed out. But I get a lot of people who friend request me, and I'm like, who are you? And if they don't message me back, I get rid of them. Like, I want social media to be social. I am way too social of a human being to not have interactions with people. If they just want to collect people, I'm not about that, right? If you want to message me and have a conversation, absolutely. So, but I will put stuff up there that almost it always has a very strategic purpose. I do like social media. I have a good relationship with social media. I'm not on it that too much. I feel sometimes I get a little bit too much, but I don't feel like I am. I post a lot of stuff on there, but I always try to post things that are inspirational, things that are going to drive engagement, things that people are ultimately interested in. I am not trying to work the algorithm. People are the algorithm. Do you understand what I mean there? People are the algorithm. Type that down. People are the algorithm. It's not like the algorithm is. No, people represent the algorithm. That's really important. They're human beings. Reach them at an emotional level. Reach them at a human level. That's what's going to drive your engagement in whatever it is that you're doing, right? So thank you, Lauren. So don't be so obsessed about the damn algorithm, right? Posting is not marketing. Posting is just letting the world know that you're still out there doing your thing. Now, are there things that you can do to market that it does resemble posts? Yes. That is when you're doing direct response. Every piece of marketing that you put out there must have a strong, clear call to action. Now, if I am putting a piece of marketing material out there, and I specifically want them to buy my book, right now. So this book that I mentioned earlier is called The Time Wealthy Advantage. Okay. Right now, in fact, this morning, I contacted my cover designer and said, hey, I need you to start working on a cover design for my next book called The Time Wealthy Leader Boss. Now, Leader Boss is about being a boss who struggles being a leader, right? That's when does anybody know what I'm talking about? Where, if you're just too nice, and because you're too nice, you get walked all over. Does anybody know what I'm talking about with that? Right? That was me. And because I was way too nice, I was like too nice of a boss. Everyone, I just felt like I was taken advantage of, and I'm working my tail off, right? Hermika, yeah, thank you. Like that, I'm working my tail off. Meanwhile, all these other people are just like coming and going as they please, but boy, do they want their paychecks on time. Man, that was me. That's because I was acting as a boss and not a leader, and certainly not a leader boss. So I'm working on this right now. And so I put a piece of content up on my page that was really just about driving, about teasing the book that's going to be released in 2026. I just posted the first 3 or 4 paragraphs just to get people to start reading it. And they're going to go, oh, excerpted from Leader Boss, right? So I know, Margot, I get it. And I'm telling you, that's the problem when you actually, again, the problem is you have too much caring and not enough candor. And that's when you have to say, okay, hold on a second. I need to, I appreciate you being this, but I need to be I need to provide some leadership for you right now, because the way that you're showing up for this right now is not going to work for me. I really like you, but you can't do this. That's drawing that line in the sand. And yes, they will appreciate the candor, but you have to have equal amounts of caring and equal amounts of candor. If you have too much candor, then you become a tyrant. And now you become that boss that everybody hates. And they will only do up to and not one lick more of what you ask them to do. And you have to ask them to do everything. You know what I'm talking about? Right? It's like, do I really need to tell you to take the trash out? Right? Right? That's what I'm saying. So being a leader boss is really being that permissional production type leader that John Maxwell talks about. So this is really, really important. So I put that stuff out there. That was a post that had no call to action. I really won't even consider that marketing, but it is a post that is designed to start eliciting interest around my book that's going to be released sometime within the next 6 months. Make sense? All right. So every piece of marketing must have a very strong, clear call to action. So if I'm saying like, hey, this is a marketing piece, I'm going to say, hey, look, by the way, if you're interested, okay, if I'm going to be posting something out there, mention this and get 50% off your second ice cream cone. Right? How many people are going to come in there and get one ice cream cone unless they're one person? Right? Okay. Up to such and such value. Right? Or you get the third ice cream cone for free or something like that. Or, hey, mention this and get this free download. Now you can start collecting email addresses, and now you can start collecting other things. It doesn't always have to be a giveaway. It doesn't always have to be a discount. It doesn't always have to be something that's free. It can be, hey, buy my book. I have sold more books by just posting a few of the paragraphs with a picture, with a photo. Photos drive attention. With a photo that is, in fact, I might have to change the photo that's on my post because it's not driving very much attention. And I kind of picked one kind of in a rush, but it's not driving the type of attention that it normally should. So I'm paying attention to the type of metrics because it's a good read, but not enough people are seeing it. They're seeing it, and they're not interested enough in it. That's okay. You trial and error. Okay. So and you don't always get it right. But when I sold this book, I would put a couple of excerpts up there, and then someone like, oh, wow, this is really good. How do I get a copy? Here you go. Here's the link. And now I got people driving traffic, and I had it profitable within the first 10 days, which is unheard of because my first book was a disaster. So I'm just telling you, if there's a way of doing it wrong, I know how to do it wrong. So I'm going to go just a minute or two over here. So I'm going to finish this up. But every piece of marketing must have urgency and scarcity. So that's what I'm saying. Every piece of marketing must have measurable and trackable metrics. And because this is why it's so important when you stop and think about this, that if you are putting stuff out there that is not trackable, this is going to become a problem because it's that if you won't know what's working. Every time I put out a post or, put up a post and I put up a separate link, I knew that when people bought, they bought because of that link, because I was tracking those specific individual metrics. So this is the other thing, is that the other mistake that I often see is that they think that followers equals money, right? That's just a vanity metric. And really what matters, what I will tell you what matters, is paying clients, dollars in the bank, and having raving fans, people who are going to talk about you when you're not around. Okay. And the last mistake that I often see is that people who are not setting the right buying environment, right? Think about like if you're walking into Target and someone opens their trunk and says, hey, you want to buy a watch? Right? You're like, no, they're sketchy sketch. I don't really want to buy a watch out of a trunk. Okay. But you go into Target and they've got the nice glass case and the lights and the thing, and they see the same watch there, right? You're more likely to buy it because they've set the buying environment. So part of what I'm saying here is I mention this is that, don't post and ghost. That is absolutely blowing up the buying environment. When you post something and you're like, hey guys, what do you think about this? And everyone's like, yeah, right, rock on, this and that, right? And you go, and all I see is like, you might go through and like it, maybe heart, like it, whatever. Like, dude, take an extra minute and just acknowledge and go, wow, that's such a great thought. Thank you so much. Right. and come on, and don't make every single response just, I mean, that just drives me crazy. Like I'm like, there's a girl who I really like and her stuff is really good and it's really funny, but I just stopped. I don't post on her stuff anymore because she doesn't engage with anybody. She'll go, "Hey guys, I'm really have this problem," and people will post like they're pouring their heart out to her to address this question that she has, and she never responds back. I'm like, what in the world, girl? Like, and she had a viral video. It was hilarious, by the way, but it was very, very funny. Went viral on TikTok, has several million followers. Even I think had Steve Harvey mention it or make a mention on it. But she does not mention anything back, like on Facebook or any. Maybe she does it on TikTok. I have no idea, but it's super annoying, and I just don't want to engage with her. Like I'm like, if she posts something, I never post anything on her page anymore. Like any sort of response because she doesn't. Right, and if she's got ever wanted to monetize her stuff, I would never know because I don't really pay attention to it anymore. Okay. So just don't post and ghost. That is an absolute no. So let's talk about success strategies and then we will land the plane. So success strategies, first and foremost, you have to lead with value, right? Then we're going to talk about the 15 reasons why people buy. I'm going to allow you to you can take a screenshot of that picture of that frame, and then the 6 principles of persuasion. So let's talk about this really quick. So first and foremost, when I'm talking about leading with value, you educate them, you make them laugh. You get them to think, right? Let them feel something, tap into their emotion. Let them, share a little bit of vulnerability with them. Not fake vulnerability, by the way. That's everybody can just see through that, right? But let them feel something. Let them feel an emotion, right? And not anger. Like there's enough like anger videos. Like make them feel something good. Okay. But get them to challenge an old paradigm that's keeping them stuck and say, you know what, that's an old way of thinking. And I'm thinking this new way. And maybe if that resonates with you, maybe you and I should have a conversation. What do you think? What are you experiencing? And get them to respond on your page. But let them see the authentic version of you. This world is dying for authenticity. And when you can go on and be an authentic self, and I came on here and said, hey, I got kind of a quirky sense of humor, I hope I don't offend anybody. No one left, right? In fact, I think I gained a follower or two, since I started. But but people want authenticity. And I'm not coming in here trying to tell you I've got zillions of dollars in the bank. And no, I drive a heap of crap because I don't spend my money on cars, right? I spend my money on other things, probably more books than a person should have. But I definitely don't spend my money on cars because I don't care, right? I don't want to worry about where I park the stupid thing, right? And that's not where I spend my money. I spend my money on real estate and things that are income producing and, spending on trips for my family and things like that, right? But they want to see the authentic version of you, not the made up version. There's too much of that already. But the 15 reasons why people buy, I'm just going to go ahead and put these up, but these are the reasons why people will buy from you. Okay. Are there more? Probably, I don't know, but this is something I listed in the book, The Time Wealthy Advantage. But people will buy because they will make money, save time, avoid effort, escape pain, right? They will buy for more comfort. They will buy for better health. They will buy to gain praise from their tribe, right? Or feel more love from their tribe. They will buy to increase their status. Okay. They will buy for truth, especially if they have felt lied to in the past. They will buy for personal growth. They will buy just simply because something is new, right? Who has to have the latest version of the iPhone just because it's new, right? I don't have an iPhone. I have a normal phone. So see what I did there? So I don't buy. In fact, the only reason I have this new phone is because the old phone broke, and it was kind of a pain in the neck getting this whole thing done. But I don't buy for novelty generally. So, but some people do. Some people will buy for more control or certainty, and some people will buy to be in more contribution. So take this as a photo because this is your homework. I want you to think of all the ways how you directly and indirectly help people make more money, or how you directly or indirectly sell them truth, or help them gain praise, or have more truth in life, or have more growth in their life, right? Like how directly or indirectly, how you can help them avoid effort, making it easy. Okay. It's really important because when you get in front of this avatar, or when you start having lead generation conversations with them, this is much easier because you understand your avatar at a much deeper level. That's why I can speak to my avatar very fluently, no matter who they are or where they are. So this is the 15 reasons why people will buy. The last piece here is the 6 principles of persuasion. Now, this was actually brought up by Robert Cialdini in his book Persuasion. He also wrote another book called Persuasion, but I'm not really going to mention that. But if you have an opportunity to read any of his stuff is really, really good. But this comes from the book Influence by Robert Cialdini, Cialdini. So hang on, I'll type it in the chat here. But Cialdini is his last name, Cialdini. So that's Cialdini. So the 6 principles of persuasion is about reciprocity, commitment and consistency, social proof, liking, authority, and scarcity. So reciprocity is, again, if you give me something, I'm going to give you something, right? Commitment and consistency is about making micro commitments and then following through on those commitments, being consistent with that. Social proof is just looking at what the crowd is doing. Liking means that not just do you like me, right? I know I'm a likable person, but are you like me? Can you relate? Like, hey, I drive a piece of crap too, right? Hey, I got a 2-year-old terrorist who lives at the house too, right? Our 2-year-old little terrorist and her diabolical little fingers switched it off from air conditioning to heat the other night. And I woke up at 4:30 in the morning and it was like 614 degrees in the bedroom. And I'm like, oh, why is it so hot in here? And, someone might go, holy crap. Yeah, I can relate. Okay. So that's really important that they recognize and they are like me. Hey, he is like me. I recognize that. Does this person have authority? Does this person now in terms of scarcity, it has to be real scarcity. So scarcity is like, hey, I've got 10 units and only 10 units, or, hey, I've got this amount of time and only this amount of time. Right. And you have to, otherwise that's going to fall off. So that is everything that I have, guys. I thank you for sticking around. I'm going to go ahead and put in the chat, and I apologize for going a little bit over. Thank you all for sticking around. For those of you who are interested, and if you are of the Facebook ilk and you'd like to see how I do my social media stuff, thank you. Lauren's got the links up there already for me. So the first link that she's got is for the Time Wealthy, is for the Facebook group. I don't know if I got it shown there. I don't know if you can actually... Lauren, can you put them up separately? Because I think that they are, you won't be able to copy and paste them. So let me see here. But if you want to, actually, if you just want to reach out to me on Facebook, you can definitely get into the Time Wealthy Advantage Facebook group. Thank you. That's what I'm looking for. So I think, so that's for the Facebook group right there, facebookgroup.com. It's actually the Time Wealthy VIP or Time Wealthy VIP. That's the Facebook group. So that's that one. If you're looking for this one here, this is for the book. If you are interested, I'm going to come back to that in here just a second. So, and then there's another one here. I just want to make a point. Where did my mouse go? Oh my gosh. Okay. So if you are interested in more trainings like this, you can go to Eventbrite, and the Eventbrite is actually what Lauren is posting in the chat right now. And that is this right here. Okay. And that's the future events. That is that link right there. I don't know if they have the ability to copy these links. Can I get someone else? Are you able to copy those and put those into a browser? I'm not sure if you guys can. If you can't, share my referral link. Oh, wait, here we go. I think I can actually do this. Nope, I can't share it. Nope, can't do that. So let me know if you can't do that. If you're not able to do that, you can copy. I can copy your text, so I think so. Okay, perfect. Okay, so very good. All right, so if you guys can do that, so if you'd like to go to Eventbrite, you can do, that's this one right here. That is that's the book offer. If you'd like to go to the strategic boardroom, that's it right there. That's the Eventbrite one. So the Eventbrite, that's for more events that are coming up. If you'd like to copy and paste that for any other events that I have coming up, I've got one that's about book writing next week. So if you'd like to ever learn how to write and publish a book, I've got that coming up, and I've got some other events coming up next week as well. But having a system, we talked about this. This is about having a signed copy. If you'd like a signed copy of the book, let me get that out of the way. This is, I can send you a signed copy if you're domestic. If you're international, my recommendation is to go on Amazon, buy it that way, because I can't offer it for this price internationally. But if you'd like a signed copy, which is going to be cheaper on Amazon. I have a bonus 30-minute one-to-one coaching session. Actually, I'm going to bump that to 45 minutes. So if you'd like a 45-minute call, basically you can have all of this. There's a whole bundle where you can get the Time Wealthy Advantage, which is it's everything that we talked about today, pretty much with the exception of this social media specifics. It's this book right here, plus these 4 guides right here. So if you'd like to get a copy of those, which is everything that's on the screen right now, that is everything that is the Time Wealthy Advantage offer. So that is this offer right there. So if you want to go to that, if you'd like to buy that, again, if you are international and you would, if you want to buy the book and you want a 45-minute session with me, just send me a screenshot that you purchased it, because unfortunately Amazon doesn't tell me who buys things. That's the only unfortunate thing there. That is all I have, everybody. If you guys have any questions, I can hang around for just a second. You can copy the links. Okay, thank you, Nancy. I appreciate you letting me know. And if you would like so if you have any other questions or anything along those lines, I'll hang out. But otherwise, thank you guys so much. Really quick, I would like to ask you just a quick favor. If you did find value in this, and you don't have any interest in the Facebook group or anything else, and this is the last time that you're going to hear from me, could you at least go into Eventbrite and give me 5 stars if you thought this training was good? If you thought it was horrible, then don't go there. Don't tell anybody. No, I'm just kidding. But seriously, I'd like feedback. But if you think it was worth 5 stars, please go to Eventbrite, click on 5 stars, say the guy was amazing. He turned water into wine and everything was great. All right. Thank you all for hanging around today. I really appreciate you guys hanging out. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you guys next time.